Daytona 500 qualifying is next.
And when I was dead, you gave me new life. I'm lifting you up with all of my might. I don't care who's to the left, to the right, you're all that's on my mind. Don't really care what they say, what they think, I feel so alive. I'm unashamed, I'm wide awake. Not gonna hide, can't deny, you're my everything. Here's to the free, who still believe. You're the star of the show that we came to see. With all my heart, all my life, gonna live it loud. I wanna make you famous. Light up your name, let it shine, never burning out. I wanna make you famous.
Hello everybody, this is Napa Fan here, and this is Daytona 500 qualifying for the Season 6 Chick-fil-A Cup Series Daytona 500. Today, we will determine the front row for the Great American Race, which will be run Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. But here on this Wednesday afternoon, we are going to be qualifying and determining the starting lineups for the Mellow Yellow Duel, which will be run on Friday. On top of determining the front row for the Daytona 500, we will also be determining the two part-time drivers which will lock themselves into the Daytona 500. Two more part-time drivers will join them at the end of the Mellow Yellow Duel. But for today's qualifying session, we will lock in two of those part-time drivers to race in the Great American Race on Saturday morning. Drivers are making their way out onto the racetrack. It is a 20-minute session, and the top 12 in this 20-minute session will qualify again in a 10-minute session and go for the pole. It's just like how we qualified for the Indianapolis 250, only instead of it being top 9, it is top 12 here for the Daytona 500. And the top two highest qualifiers of the part-time drivers will lock themselves into the Daytona 500 as well. And once everything is said and done, all of the drivers who qualify in an odd position, they will start in Mellow Yellow Duel number 1, and all the drivers who qualify in an even position will start in Mellow Yellow Duel number 2. So positions 13 through 42 will be determined here in this first session, and positions 1 through 12 will be determined at the end of the second session here for the Daytona 500 qualifying. Anyways, this is William Johnston, a part-time driver this season here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, so if he wants to make the Daytona 500, he either has to race his way in on Friday or be one of the two fastest part-time drivers in today's qualifying session. He is currently second fastest, but that just changed because a lot of guys are out there on the racetrack making good lap times. Here's Anthony Lopez in his first ever season of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Number 75, William Johnston, is also a rookie, but that number 72 is full-time compared to the part-time driver of William Johnston. That is Eli Bright driving the number 13 this season for Germain Racing. Zachary Fitzwater in the number 41. Eli Bright is currently the fastest driver, and the number 55 of Colin Driver, who is a part-time driver, currently runs in the second position. There is Caleb Hoffman, who will be driving in his final season of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series this season here. In season number 6, he will drive full-time in the number 14 for Stuart Haas Racing. And we're going to miss this dude once he's gone, but he's a great dude. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this season plays out for him. It's going to be special. There's Al Lagasse in the number 34. Donovan Dufit in the number 18 is a rookie driver. Same with Al Lagasse in the number 34. Number 31 of Jay Jefferson, his first ever season in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Alexander Rowe driving the number 27, also a rookie. There's Tristan Allen. He has been driving in this series since season number 3. There's Jordan Lopez, who won the Thanksgiving 500 last year in his first ever start on Napa Fan, so he's definitely a fantastic driver. He's driving the number 17. He's teammates with Garrett Zenor on the Roush Fenway Racing team, which is owned by Luke Rainey, who won the Indianapolis 250 last Saturday, and a big congratulations to him once again on that very special win at the Brickyard. And definitely a memorable one for that driver and owner right there. Stuart Grattan, similar colors from last season, but a different number. Same team as well. JTD Doherty Racing, owned by Cameron Gaju. It's Stuart Grattan driving the number 37. Cameron Garlington drives the number 47. Both of those guys, 6-season veterans in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. A rookie driver here, but it's a full-time machine, the number 95 of Daniel McMillan. And he's driving for the Levine Family Racing Team, owned by Nick Smith. Furniture Row Racing is owned by Nathan Stapleton, and the number 78 of Reagan Whitlock is a driver making his third, maybe fourth season in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, I do believe. He was in season number 1 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, and he won the finale race in season number 1 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, but I'm pretty sure that is his only career win in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Number 96, that is a part-time driver right there of Dale Salzman, and Dale Salzman, every single time he has driven in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, he has been a part-time driver. John Arndt, the winner of the 500th race on Napa Fan, in the number 24 full-time. There's Matt Dallio, the Season 4 champion of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. The Season 5 champion, Tyler Salzman, has retired, so he is the most recent champion, Matt Dallio, in the number 88, who still currently drives in the series. Eric Almenhart, a part-time driver, driving for Premium Motorsports, and I would like to apologize. I actually called Brad Stover, the owner of Premium Motorsports in the Mellow Yellow Smoothfest. Premium Motorsports is actually owned by Zach Ryan. It is the Front Row Racing team of Brad Stover. The Front Row Racing team that is owned by Brad Stover and not Premium Motorsports. Trey Bartow has driven the number 4 every single season in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, all 6 seasons. Ace Garcia will be his first ever start on Saturday, driving the number 23 for BK Racing, owned by Simon Nichols. There is the only Daytona 500 champion in the field, as Jesse Turner, who won the first ever race on Napa Fam this season, won Daytona 500, and he's driving that single car team, driving for the single car team of Richard Petty Motorsports, owned by James Richardson. Daniel Bouchard, in his first ever season in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, owned by Josh Crash. And number 33 of Jonathan King is also another rookie driver, and he drives for the Circle Sport, the Motorsports Group team, owned by Christian Master. And we got ourselves a pretty big pack right here. Gonna get some fast speeds here. Remember, it's the top 12 that advance on to the final 10-minute session. And in that final 10-minute session, we will determine the front row for the Daytona 500. Cody Sill, Elijah Gordon. The number 19 is a rookie driver. Actually, Cody Sill is also a rookie driver, but his driver Larry Ike drove last year and got 2 wins here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. But the number 19 driven by Richard Kinghart in the number 19. Derek Hamill's a part-time driver in the number 7. There's Garrett Zenor, the all-time winningest driver on Napa Fan, driving the number 6 for Roush Fenway Racing. Got number 48 of Blaine Keys, number 83 of Isaac Nichols, a rookie driver driving that car. Number 3 is Noah Cars. Number 32, Marty Johnson, won the Mellow Yellow Smooth Fest on Monday. He's got a lot of momentum from that, and obviously you can tell because he's the fastest driver right now here in the first round of Daytona 500 qualifying. Number 20, driven by rookie Julius Anderson, and I think we've gotten through most of the drivers so far. There's Colin Driver in the number 55. He's a part-time driver this season. And like I said earlier, the top 2 qualifiers of part-time drivers in Daytona 500 qualifying will lock themselves into the big show Saturday morning automatically, and then 2 more part-time drivers will lock themselves into the Daytona 500 in the Mellow Yellow Duel. Erja Larvin Alonso in the number 10. William Johnston, that's the number 42 of Matt Tuck. And there's Eli Bright once again. Donovan Dufit. I think we went through most of these drivers, actually. Jay Jefferson's going to be driving number 31 this season for RCR. RCR is owned by Matthew Phillips. There is Ryan Madden. That is Adam Lewis in the number 22. And this big pack here closing in on him. And I think somebody had an issue. I don't know what happened, but Noah Cars has crashed. He is the 3rd fastest guy right now in the number 3, and major damage to his race car now. As long as his time isn't taken away, that time will stand, but I believe we had a crash, and it happened in that big pack that we were focusing on earlier in this session. Anyway, some more guys we have not talked about yet. Ricky Stevenson will be making his first ever start on Napa Fan on Saturday morning, driving the number 38 full-time for Front Row Motorsports, owned by Brad Stover. There's Cameron Garlington, team owner for JTD Doherty Racing, Cameron Gaju. And Gaju had driven in all of the seasons of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series up until this season. This time he is an owner for the JTD Doherty Racing team, which is a very experienced team. Cameron Garlington, a champion of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, the Season 3 champion of this series, and Stuart Gretton. They have driven in every single season of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Same with Matt Dalio, number 88, the Season 4 champion. Already mentioned that. As a matter of fact, we got all three of the past champions that are racing this season in this pack. Jesse Turner, the Season 2 champion. Cameron Garlington, the Season 3 champion. Matt Dalio, the Season 4 champion. How about that? They all find themselves right on each other. But there's Elijah Gordon driving for the Hendrick Motorsports team. That team owned by John Andrews. Penske Racing, not sure you can find any of their cars, but Penske Racing is owned by Cody Smart. Fisher G owns Chip Ganassi Racing. Jonathan Rains owns the number 13 of Germain Racing. I'm trying to think. Stuart Haas Racing is owned by Igor Barretta. I'm trying to get everybody mentioned here, so hold on. Michael Kelly owns the Go Fast Racing team, who has the fastest time right now. The number 32 of Marty Johnson, fastest right now in the session. It is the top 12 that advance on to the final 10-minute session for the pole here in the Daytona 500 qualifying. Brad Stover owns the Front Row Racing team. James Richardson owns Richard Petty Motorsports. TriStar Motorsports, the driver of that team, Anthony Lopez. Aiden Shepard, the owner of that team. Clint Buchanan owns Tommy Baldwin Racing. That's the car we're focusing on right now, driven by Derek Hamill. That's another part-time driver. And remember, the top two fastest part-time drivers automatically lock themselves into the Daytona 500, and the fastest part-time driver right now is that number 7 of Derek Hamill. So it is looking very good for that young driver right there. Zach Ryan owns Premium Motorsports. Tyler already owns Rick Ware Racing. Rick Ware Racing is number 51 of Dane Ammon, who finished second here in the Season 2 Daytona 500. It's great to have him back here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series, and I'm hoping he makes the Daytona 500 and maybe get some redemption from what happened to him in Season number 2. And the final team yet to be mentioned, Cookie Helms owns Gaunt Brothers Racing and the number 96, that car driven by Dale Salzman. I believe we mentioned everybody here in Daytona 500 qualifying. Good to get these names in my head. It's a 26-race season, and these guys will be driving for their championships. Of course, the part-time guys are not really eligible for the championship, but the 36 full-time guys are, and they are going to be racing hard all season long to win the Chick-fil-A Cup Series championship. And we're going to try to see if we find any really big packs. It's a pretty big pack here, led by Caleb Hoffman and Donovan Duthit. Tristan Allen has never won a Chick-fil-A Cup Series race before, but he's going to try to do so on Saturday morning. Blaine Keys, same with him. He's never won a race in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series before. Where's Jay Jefferson, Alexander Rowe, teammates at Richard Childress Racing. They're both rookies this season. Number 34 there is Al Lagasse. Got another big pack here. Number 33 is Jonathan King. I think we already mentioned Jonathan King. I think we mentioned all these guys. I think we have. McCollin Driver and number 75 of William Johnson. Those two guys are part-time drivers. And they're trying to get fast times so they can lock themselves into the Daytona 500 right now. The way it currently runs, Derek Hamill and William Johnston would lock themselves into the big show. But if more than two drivers make it into the top 12, that means it is not guaranteed for all of those drivers to make it into the 500 automatically, as only two drivers will lock positions in. And of course we're going to have another session, so that's going to reshuffle the top 12. If you get three part-time guys in the top 12, they're going to mix around, and who knows where they're going to be. It's going to come down to that top 12 session to see who would make it in if we had three or more part-time drivers in the top 12 for that final session. Trying to make sense. These qualifying sessions, they're always some of the hardest to do because they got so much to explain. It's just not even funny. Of course, earlier you probably saw the graphic showing the past Daytona 500 pole sitters. And the only past Daytona 500 pole sitter in the field is Matt Dalio, and he is alongside the only Daytona 500 champion still racing. That's Jesse Turner. Matt Dalio started on the pole in the Season 1 Daytona 500. Jesse Turner won the Season 1 Daytona 500, and that's the only pole sitter of a Daytona 500 still racing here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. And Jesse Turner, the only Daytona 500 winner, still racing in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. How about that? And they won the first one, too. That shows that these guys have been around a long time. They are majorly experienced here on NAPA compared to some of these other guys. And it's going to be really fun to see how those championship drivers, those champions, are going to do. Same with Cameron Garlington. All three of those guys very experienced. Trey Bartow as well. These guys are some of the best. Zachary Fitzwater. They've been in every single season of this series, and they know what they're doing here when it comes to the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. Anyways, top 12 right now. I don't believe I've gone through and listed all the top 12 drivers quite yet, but Marty Johnson is still the fastest driver here in this first session. The second fastest guy is Garrett Senor in the number 6. Now, Garrett Senor, he has traditionally driven the number 16. He has done so in every single season up to this point. But the number 16, that team closed down. Garrett Senor moved over to the number 6. And Garrett Senor, like I said, the all-time winningest driver on NAPA. He is one of the legends of this series, and he's going to be driving that number 6 this season here in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series season number 6. Number 13 of Eli Bright is currently the third fastest driver. Number 3 of Noah Cars is fourth fastest. Jonathan King in the number 33, who is leading this little pack here. He is fifth fastest. Derek Hamill, a part-time driver, is the sixth fastest guy. Then it's Chris Skinlart, Herja Larvin Alonso, Julius Anderson, William Johnston, another part-time driver, Jordan Lopez, and Matt Tuck, the top 12. If it remained that way, those 12 drivers will duke it out for the pole in the Daytona 500 in the next 10-minute session and the final session of the day here for Daytona 500 qualifying. There's Julius Anderson in the number 20, driving the Circle K scheme this season. And kind of like that scheme. It's a nice-looking scheme. Good choice there by Julius Anderson to drive this scheme in Season 6 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. He is a rookie driver, but he does have a couple of wins. And once summer comes around, once he gets his series rolling, he's the latest NRLOA addition. So I'm looking forward to what he brings to the league. And like I said, this summer it's going to be big for the NRLOA, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Anyways, Julius Anderson is going to get in the way of this little pack here. Pretty sure these RCR guys are not too happy about what just happened there. Alexander Rowe, Jay Jefferson getting held up by Julius Anderson. And the number 34, you see him, that's Al Agassi. He's in this little pack here, but he is not in the top 12 right now. And these guys trying to scramble, get a good time. We got a big pack forming up here with Eli Bright, the fastest guy in this session so far. Marty Johnson here, Jalarvin Alonso, the number 17 to Jordan Lopez, Colin Driver, William Johnston. That's Ace Garcia in the number 23. I believe I mentioned him, but he will be making his first ever start on NAPA come Saturday morning. Got the number 21, Chris Skinlart, the number 21, won the Daytona 500 in Season 4. That was Gabriel Wanderley driving the car that season. And Anthony Lopez, he's a rookie driver, but he's driving full-time in the number 72. And he's in this big pack as well. Get these big packs here in this Daytona 500 qualifying session. We've got another big one here. That is Cameron Garlington, Noah Cars, Matt Tuck, number 15 there of Eric Almanar. He's a part-time driver. Matt Dalio, Daniel Bouchard, Ricky Stevenson, Zachary Fitzwater, Trey Bartow, and Jesse Turner. Now Turner, look at where he is, 13th, just on the outside looking in. Matt Tuck, who is in this little pack here, is just in. He's on the bubble right now, and we'll see if that number 43 of Jesse Turner pushes him out. It is very possible that could happen. Possible one of these guys in this pack could push out Matt Tuck, and it might be this guy, number 11 of Daniel Bouchard. You know what? It just happened. Some guys were just pushed out, and I believe they were pushed out by guys running in this pack. The number 27 of Alexander Rowe has gone the second. Yeah, it's actually this pack that went really fast. Alexander Rowe has just gone to the second position, And I'm trying to locate the other driver who improved their time and made their way in. I believe it was the number 17. No? Actually, I think only one driver went in there into the top 12. That was Alexander Rowe, who pushed Matt Tuck outside of the top 12. And now Alexander Rowe, he might go for a pole position here as a rookie in the Daytona 500 qualifying session. Late in the going, a very good push by the number 27. And I believe that he is going to be in that top 12. He's definitely going to be in that top 12, I can tell you that. Now it's Jordan Lopez on the bubble. Jay Jefferson also improved his time. That will help him get a higher up starting position for his Mellow Yellow Duel. If he's going to qualify 14th, he's going to be in Mellow Yellow Duel number 2. He's going to qualify in an odd numbered position, and he's going to be in Duel number 1. Once it comes time for the Mellow Yellow Duel on Friday, the first duel race will determine the starting lineup for the inside lane, and the second duel race will determine the starting lineup for the outside lane, with the exception of the front row, which will be determined at the end of the day between the top 12 drivers in this session in a 10-minute session to determine the pole. Another big pack here, but when they're going 3 wide, they don't tend to go as fast as when they're going single file. All the side drafting going on, it could definitely play a factor and slow these guys down. You don't necessarily want to be going in a pack like this in a qualifying session. I believe we already had an issue. See the skid marks down the backstretch. It does not appear that it worked out too well for whoever was involved. I believe that might have been Noah Cars. Yeah, Noah Cars was involved in a crash earlier on. There's Isaac Nichols in the number 83. I do not believe any of these guys in this pack, with the exception of Garrett Senor. Senor is running 3rd right now. He's the 3rd fastest driver. So Senor is going to make it onto the top 12, but I do believe the rest of those guys in that pack are not going to be able to do so. It looks like Jesse Turner has given up. Of course, you know, running for the pole here in the Daytona 500, you're not going to get any bonus points. So, you know, you got the Mellow Yellow Duel to advance your position. Good to just keep your cars safe, considering all the pack racing, I guess you can say pack racing, that was going on in the session. And I guess Jesse Turner, a lot of those guys decided to just call it a day. So yes, the top 12, hold on for them for just a moment. Everybody from 13th on down, Matt Tuck on down. If you are in an odd number position, you will be racing in duel number 1 on Friday. If you are in an even number position, you are going to be racing in duel number 2 on Friday as well. And that only applies at the moment to 13th place on down. Take a look at the rest of the results right there. And yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. You guys should understand the system. We're all, you know, at least casual NASCAR fans, and we should understand how the whole system works for Daytona 500 qualifying and the dual races and all that. As for the part-time guys, we had ourselves 2 part-time drivers make it into the top 12, and only 2, which means that Derek Hamill and William Johnston have locked themselves into the Daytona 500, but that does not mean that Eric Ullman, our Cullen driver, Dale Salzman, and Dane Ammon are not going to be racing in the Daytona 500. 2 of those 4 drivers will be in. They're going to have to race their way in the Mellow Yellow Duel on Friday, and I believe it works out. Actually, Dane Ammon might automatically get in here because he might be the only part-time driver in the first duel race. That's the way it works, unfortunately, for some guys, but that might be a good thing for Dane Ammon, since he's the only part-time driver at the moment who is locked into a position to start for the Mellow Yellow Duel that is on an inside lane position, which means he's going to be the only part-time driver at the moment in duel race number 1. And the way the whole thing works out, I think Dane Ammon might have just locked himself in the way it all works out. Now, it could actually be, I don't exactly remember how the rules are, because, you know, I don't really go forward with this too well, but I'm actually pretty sure that the way you qualify here for the dual races is that you have to be one of the top finishers in the dual race. I think you have to be, you know, the top finisher, and if you do not finish the top in the dual race, at the top part-time finisher in your dual race, then it goes back to the time. So Dane Ammon might not necessarily be safe. I'm not 100% sure how it works, so excuse me there. I'm trying to explain it, and I'm not doing a good job at it. But anyways, Let's focus on the top 12. Those top 12 drivers will go for the pole in the Daytona 500. Marty Johnson, Alexander Rowe, Garrett Zenor, Eli Bright, Noah Cars, Jonathan King, Derek Hamill, Chris Skinlart, Hergel Arvin Alonso, Julius Anderson, William Johnston, and Jordan Lopez. One of those 12 drivers will start on the pole for the Daytona 500 in Season 6 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. So here we go. It's time for the final session. It's going to be 10 minutes for the final round of qualifying in the Daytona 500. And one of those top 12 drivers will start on the pole position for the Great American Race. Let's see who does it here at Daytona.
Honey, what are you doing?
Watching a cow.
Oh, what's it doing?
Impressions. When did we get a cow?
And here we are for the final round in Daytona 500 qualifying for Season 6 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. We have ourselves the 12 drivers who will battle it out, and whoever is the fastest driver will start on the pole for Saturday morning's Great American Race. And whoever is second fastest will start on the outside pole, guaranteed. It's Marty Johnson, Alexander Rowe, Garrett Zenor, Eli Bright, Noah Cars, Jonathan King, Derek Hamill, Chris Skinlart, Hergel Arvin Alonso, Julius Anderson, William Johnston, and Jordan Lopez. As for Derek Hamill and William Johnston, they are part-time drivers, but they are locked into the show because they are the two fastest part-time drivers that qualified here today for Daytona 500 qualifying. Nobody has gone out yet. Very interesting thing there. And looks like we got the wrong camera angle for now, but there we go. Got the right one. Alexander Rowe is going to be the first driver out. Garrett Zenor, Julius Anderson, they might work together here. I'm just going to have to see. Number 13. That is Eli Bright. Derek Hamill, Marty Johnson, the Meliello Smoothfest winner of Marty Johnson. Definitely was very fast. He was the fastest driver in that first round. So that number 32 they are definitely a force to reckon with here in Meliello Speed Week. So just watch out for him. Number 33, Jonathan King. You got Noah Cars, Hergel Arvin Alonso, Jordan Lopez, Chris Skinlart, and William Johnston still on the pit lane. I'm wondering if Garrett Zenor is going to try to draft this number 20. But at the moment, it does not really appear that anybody's in a good pack to get a fast time. But anyways, hope you guys understand how the whole thing works. I'm terrible at explaining things, but I think I explained it pretty well. Of course, we know that Derek Hamill and William Johnston are already locked into the big race. And as for the other four part-time drivers, what's going to happen in the Meliello duel, and I probably will explain this on Friday as well, that in order to solidify a spot into the Daytona 500 for the part-time drivers, they have to be the highest finishing part-time driver in their duel. If they are not, and say a driver who's already locked in is the highest part-time finisher, then it goes back to the Daytona 5, or it actually goes back to the results from this qualifying session. I'm pretty sure that's how it's done, and that's how we're going to be doing it here for the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. So Dane Ammon is not locked in, and the reason why we do that is so that if you're the only guy in one, or the only guy who's automatically, or excuse me, the only guy who is not already locked in a dual race, then you can't automatically get in just because you don't have anybody to compete with in your dual race. So hopefully I'll explain that better come Friday, but I think you guys understand how it works, and it's just like the way NASCAR does it, where you have to be the highest part-time finisher in your dual race to solidify a spot. If you don't, and someone who's already locked in is the highest part-time finisher, then it goes back to the results from this qualifying session. I think that's the best way I've explained it so far. Anyways, fastest driver right now is a part-time driver. That's Derek Hamill. He is drafting the number 32 of Marty Johnson. Now, both of these guys, they drove in the USF 2000 series. Somebody blowing up. That's Chris Skinlart. He has not gotten a lap in. And number 21 of Chris Skinlart blowing up here in this second session. It's terrible for the number 21. How about this? Number 75 of William Johnston just went to the top of the board. And if it stays that way, we're going to have 2 part-time drivers locked onto the front row for the Daytona 500. How about that if that happens? But this session is far from over. We could definitely see somebody different. We already have Sergio Alonso the second, Alexander Rhoda third. And Alonso right now would solidify his front row starting position if he finished in second place for this session. There's Julius Anderson and Garrett Tenor. They are working together. We'll see if they get any good times. I really like that number 20. I think it looks really nice. I just like it. One of my favorite schemes. I was going to use the Code 3 Associate scheme for Danica Patrick's car, but Sergio Alonso wanted the Aspendental scheme. I'm a little disappointed because I really like that Code 3 Associate scheme. Absolutely loved it. Jonathan King, he has just gone the second. Now in this session, if you finish in a odd position, you will be in duel number 1. If you finish in an even position, you're going to be in duel number 2. I will list out the starting lineups for each duel race at the end of this session for your reference. But Jonathan King is right now the second fastest, but the guy right behind him, William Johnston, is currently sitting at the best place he possibly could be. And he might very well start on the pole for the Daytona 500 on Saturday morning. The top 2 positions are locked, and the rest of the field for the Daytona 500 will be determined. The starting positions will be determined in the Mellow Yellow Duel. Here comes Noah Cars in the 3. He is third right now. These 3 guys are the 3 fastest guys on the racetrack. And he might be one of these 3 guys winning the pole for the Daytona 500. Alexander Rowe, Sergio Alonso there. Alonso's 4th fastest right now. Julius Anderson, Garrett Tenor, Eli Bright's all by himself. Same with Marty Johnson. Jordan Lopez, I don't know if Lopez has officially completed a time yet. He sort of has, but not really. And Chris Skinlard hasn't even gotten a time in because he blew up there. I'm not sure if these guys are going to come back out. Actually, Lopez is going to, but I'm not sure about Skinlard. His engine blew, and I do not know if they're going to allow him to go back out into the racetrack. But, anyways, top position still William Johnston. But I think this number 3 of Noah Cars, he might get a good lap here. He's drafting the 75, and he is pushing that 75, trying to get a good lap time here. Will Noah Cars advance his time? We're just going to have to see. It does appear that the number 3 is going to stay where he currently is. But these 3 guys still the fastest guys on the racetrack. And if Noah Cars stays in the 3rd position, he will start 2nd place for Mellow Yellow Duel number 1. Jonathan King, he's drafting this number 75 now. And King, if he finishes in the 2nd position for this session, that means that he will guaranteed start on the outside pole for the Daytona 500. Jordan Lopez is getting some time in, but he still is yet to complete a full lap under speed. There's Alexander Rowe, Sergio Alonso. But I do not know if any of these guys are really advancing their time. How about Marty Johnson? He was behind Eli Bright. He caught up to him in the draft and went up to the 4th position. So Marty Johnson looking very fast for that Go Fast Racing team. I mean, come on. They go fast, don't they? Derek Hamill is 6th, and Jonathan King has just taken the pole position away from William Johnston. How about that one for Jonathan King? A very fast time there for the number 33, and he is now the fastest guy in this final session for the pole in the Daytona 500. We got a 3-car pack here as well. Jordan Lopez is the leader of this pack. Alonso and Alexander Rowe. We'll see if these guys advance their time. I do not believe they will. Chris Skinlard has still yet to complete a time, but I believe he's finally going to do so, but he is all by himself, so it probably will not be too fast for the number 21 of that rookie driver. But the way it's looking, it's going to be Jonathan King starting on the pole for the Daytona 500. That is a full-time ride, by the way. The number 33 is full-time, so Jonathan King will be racing for the full-time championship. And the number 75 of William Johnson, he's a part-time driver, but he is going to be in the Daytona 500 along with Derek Hamill, as they are going to be the top 2 highest qualifiers in the part-time stable. And that means they're going to lock themselves into the Daytona 500 because of their fast times here today. Marty Johnson coming down the pit lane. He's 7th right now. Alonso is up to 4th in the number 10. Jordan Lopez has improved to 5th place in the number 17, and that is mainly because he is in this pack right now, getting a push from the guys behind him. But the session is almost complete here for Daytona 500 qualifying. And it is looking like the number 33 of Jonathan King will start on the pole position for Saturday morning's great race. This clock almost out. There's probably be some extra time left. But once we are completed, once the cars are off the racetrack, it is official. And I really do not see any packs here that are going to have a chance. Now, Alexander Rowe, on this lap, he might get something because he's a little ways behind these guys. He just moved up to the 4th position. So Alexander Rowe, he improved. I just don't know if he's going to improve into the top 2. Only the top 2 will lock their spots into the Daytona 500. It is 40 seconds left here in this final session. And we are almost complete here on this Wednesday afternoon. And Jonathan King in the number 33, I believe he's going to solidify his spot for the Daytona 500 on the front row, alongside the part-time driver of William Johnston in the number 75. Got Derek Hamill, Eli Bright coming up on this pack. I believe once this timer is done, I think it's going to be it for this session. And there he is. The Daytona 500 pole sitter is going to be... I thought it was going to be done, but it's not. We still got 30 more seconds left. I don't understand why it keeps on doing that. It's not over yet. These guys could possibly beat Jonathan King and knock him off the top spot. I don't believe it's going to happen, though, because these guys, they're not going to complete a lap here. And the only guys that will are Alexander Rowe and Harry Larvin, Alonso, Sinor, and Anderson are not going to be able to do so. So only unless these guys improved, I highly doubt it because they're going side by side. And now I can officially say that Jonathan King has won the pole for the Daytona 500 in season number 6 of the Chick-fil-A Cup Series. And he will start alongside William Johnston in the Great American Race in the Chick-fil-A Cup Series come Saturday morning here on Napa Fan. As for NOAA Cars and everybody else behind them, they have not solidified spots for the Daytona 500, but they could start as high as 3rd if you're on the inside lane and as high as 4th on the outside lane because of the Melialo duels, which will be run on Monday. And I'm going to give you guys a stunning lineup for each of these dual races right now. Let me just write it down so that I don't confuse myself, because I do that all the time, and I really hate it when I have to explain something extra complicated here. But anyways, in duel number 1, Jonathan King will lead the field of the green flag. Now, wherever he finishes in duel number 1, it will not determine where he starts for the Daytona 500 because he is locked on the front row. NOAA Cars start alongside him. Row 2 will be Harry Larvin, Alonso, and Derek Hamill. Row 3 is going to be Garrett Zenor and Eli Bright. Then it's going to be Matt Tuck, Jesse Turner, Zachary Fitzwater, Ricky Stevenson, Dane Ammon. The number 2 of Tristan Allen, Trey Bartow, Donovan Duthit, Cody Sill, Richard Kinghart, John Arndt, Stuart Gratton, Caleb Hoffman, Daniel McMillan, and Al Lagasse. That's duel number 1. Duel number 2, William Johnston, no matter where he finishes in his dual race, he will start 2nd for the Daytona 500. He will lead the field off with the number 27 of Alexander Rowe, the 17 of Jordan Lopez, the 32 of Marty Johnson, Julius Anderson, Chris Skinlart, Jay Jefferson, Cameron Garlington, Anthony Lopez, Eric Almenhart, Colin Driver, Elijah Gordon, Matt Dalio, Daniel Bouchard, Dale Salzman, Ryan Madden, Isaac Nichols, Ace Garcia, Reagan Whitlock, Adam Lewis, and Blaine Keys. That's the duel number 2 starting lineup. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. I apologize if I confused you at all while trying to explain everything that's going on. But I will explain how the part-time drivers will lock themselves in the Melialo duel on Friday again, so don't worry about that. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Congratulations to Jonathan King for winning the pole position in the Season 6 Daytona 500. And William Johnson will be starting alongside him in the Great American Race. William Johnson and Derek Hamill, they are locked in the show for the Daytona 500. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Congratulations to Jonathan King, and I will see you guys later.